we don't have much time, so let's get going. So, my name is Casey Lau, and I started a startup Hong Kong, which is the ecosystem in Hong Kong for startups, about 6 years ago, and it was 6 guys together in a coffee shop, just hanging out, talking about startups. We always referred to it as a startup Alcoholics Anonymous. So we'd all go around the table, introduce ourselves, and say we have a startup, and this is my problem, and everybody would laugh. But nobody. That's not funny anymore, isn't it? Okay. So. And then the community kept growing year after year, and it was very exciting. And so a lot of different new players came into Hong Kong and things like that. So these are some of my, I guess these are the other guys in the ecosystem. And so I'd like to introduce first, maybe Yat first, because Yat is kind of the, I don't want to call him the grandfather of startups in Hong Kong, but I will.
OG.
Yat started out, you to give it like a 2 or 3 sentence overview of who you are and what you're doing right now.
Okay, so I've been in Hong Kong, I guess I started my first startup in Hong Kong over 25 years ago. Ouch. So now I really feel old. So I just dated myself. I set up one of Hong Kong's first ISPs. All right, so that was the background. Anyway, fast forward. Now our group, Outplays, is a holding company that does a bunch of investments, but also has 16 operating businesses in consumer internet tech. Within the group, we've had 3 IPOs. We've had multiple exits. We've sold businesses to Chinese companies, to American companies like IBM. So that's it.
Great. And then Bei, haven't been around for 25 years. How long have you been in Hong Kong for?
I've only been there 2 years, but I came from San Francisco. I was there for almost a decade and realized that there was a lot of opportunity not in San Francisco. So decided to take off and went one-way ticket, never been to Asia, a day in my life, ever. I had a couch and a surfboard and a laptop and a phone, and my wife and I just moved over, and it's been a wild ride. Asia's a whole nother world.
So you used to work at Apple, is that right?
Correct, yep. Did 6 different years on and off there, and then 3 startups in between.
And so you decided to come to Hong Kong and set up one of the first hardware accelerator called Brink.
Yeah, so we're a platform, so we take any idea at any stage for IoT. So we have ideas that are pieces of paper, we have things that are prototypes, people that are ready for crowdfunding, people that have already figured out manufacturing and they just need distribution. We don't care. So we've got 15 investments now. We have products shipping around the world. You can use us for distribution, trade financing. We'll do your manufacturing. We'll do quality control. We'll launch your products. We've done 15 crowdfunding campaigns now. So we just want to make IoT easier for founders because right now it's a nightmare. But we think it's the next big wave of innovation.
And Yat, you are not only founder of Outplays and Animoca, but you also do some angel investing in startups in Asia. Like, what kind of stuff do you look at?
In total, we've done over 45 deals, of which now, at this point, half of them are in Asia. But when we first started investing, most of them were in the US, so it's just a testament to what's going on in the marketplace. Generally, our focus is consumer tech, educational technologies, because that's the area that I understand. So that's why we focus on things that I get. Yeah.
So how many people here are interested in going to Asia, Hong Kong, things like that for their startups? Okay, nice. Well, you hope so. You're in the wrong room, right? So maybe you guys can tell us a little bit about, you've been there the longest, and I'll throw some of my insight into it as well, but how have you seen the ecosystem evolve over the last couple of years, actually?
Yeah, so I think what's happening in Hong Kong is, or actually in Asia in general, it's startup fever. So everyone's sort of thinking about building new companies and building new ideas. It's a completely different landscape. It's generally fairly easy to get angel funding right now. What before was kind of difficult. And now there's even more people who are looking at sort of Series A and Series B investment. There's more options. The other thing that's also changing is that many of the investors, particularly venture capital, was very focused on regions. Like, I only invest in China, or I only invested in anything that was 20 kilometers away from my office. That's changed. So we're seeing a lot of guys in the US looking for deals out in Asia. And one of the things I will say is, with the exception of China, valuations are generally better in Asia because we didn't have venture capital. When I started the business, I didn't have venture capital. So we all had to bootstrap much earlier. We all had to be cash flow positive much earlier. And as a result, we don't have the same lofty expectations, which gives for better deals for VCs and therefore more money flow as well.
So I guess my input to that is, in the last 5-6 years, we started the first co-workspace there. It was about 1,000 square feet, and it was kind of like a garage, and it smelled funny, but it was a place for people to come and hang out and try to start this ecosystem. Today in Hong Kong, we have about 40 co-work spaces, ranging from 1,000 square feet to like 50,000 square feet. And some of them are specializing in certain things, whether it be IoT or fintech and things like that. We also have the most accelerators as well in Asia. So that's quite interesting. But definitely the startup fever is growing quite big. So I've seen that grow, and it's quite interesting to see that grow. So when I go to, like, say, Dublin or go to San Francisco, I also see the different points. But how about you, Bei? So you came in, it was kind of already in the momentum already, but what's your view when you came in from San Francisco? What do you see through your eyes, and how would you tell your friends what the scene looked like in Hong Kong?
Well, I think just in the last 6 to 12 months, I've really seen the money come online. It's been there, but the big difference for me was it was still very fragmented, and now it's starting to galvanize. I think that's the exciting part, is there seems to be a momentum and sort of a center of energy that's been building up now. So teams like any of you that are interested in Asia, Hong Kong is probably the easiest translation place to start. It's fine to go to Korea, go to Japan, go to Indonesia, go to China, but all those have a very, very local scene. And so if you're looking to get a sense of Asia generally, Hong Kong has become a really easy and nice translation step because they speak English, which is great, but they also have all those same countries come through Hong Kong for one reason or another. So if you're trying to understand Asia, if you're trying to find money, if you're trying to find customers or distribution, it's a fantastic place. In terms of being a startup there, I think it's really smart for a lot of the teams to have some part of their office infrastructure. So some of their sales teams, some of their investment teams, some of their product teams. It just depends what you're making. A lot of our teams still use their software development sort of other places in the world. I think that's building in a Hong Kong, but they're fantastic on the strategy, the business development, logistics, supply chain, investment, IP, taxation. There's so many great reasons to be there. But you can still bring that amazing excellence you have from your local ecosystem and find a way to pair it really nicely. So that's kind of the strategy I've been seeing from all these other investors and teams is using Hong Kong as this amazing jump off point, but still leveraging their other offices and becoming, as a small startup, actually multinational very early, which is totally doable. It's not that hard.
So to echo kind of what Bei says, so I also have a day job. I work for SoftLayer and run the Catalyst program. It's a startup program in Asia Pacific. So I actually visit a lot of ecosystems around Asia. So I go to Tokyo, I go to Seoul, I go to Shanghai, Beijing, Singapore, Taipei, and I see what's going on there. And definitely what Bei says, I think that Hong Kong is a great place to come into if you're from Europe or the US. I wouldn't call it Asia Light. Singapore is Asia Light, if you don't know. That's like the easiest way to go there. They have Cinnabon and stuff like that there, right?
Diet Asia.
They got it. So Diet Asia. So
we're gonna make a lot of friends right now.
Hong Kong is definitely a place that you can go in and really get going and see it. But it's definitely, I wouldn't call it a gateway to China. A lot of people think they can go to China from Hong Kong, and I tell them that's definitely not a thing, because if you want to go to China, you might as well just go to China, because it's completely different areas.
I can talk about that for a second.
Yeah, okay.
Who wants to go to China?
Billion people there. Everybody give you $1.
Okay, I'm going to do it again. Keep your hands going. So first one is, who wants to make products in China? Okay. Who wants to get investment from China? Who wants to sell to China? Woo, good luck with that. That's a whole nother thing. Like, that's one thing that I think there's a big misconception for. Like, it's obviously awesome, right? Like, it's a major, like, BSG is an amazing, channel to use, but it's so different. Like, none of our teams do that early. I mean, if you're later stage, totally possible, absolutely. But partnerships are critical. That's something I think a lot of people miss. You're not going to walk in the front door. And you do need to understand that China operates like all three types of countries simultaneously. It's a tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 all at the same time. So you can't pick it off like a country. So I think Hong Kong is still a nice place to kind of gather yourself if you are looking to go to China. At least all the factories are owned in Hong Kong. The vast majority legally are owned in Hong Kong. And you can speak English and you can deal with their offices. But it's certainly, like you said, not like a perfect set of permeable membrane there between the two countries. But it's a great place to collect your thoughts, learn, talk to people in your native language, get structurally set up legally before you go into China. I definitely don't recommend people just drop into China. It's not my first recommendation.
Maybe just to...
Guest starring Simon Squibb.
Another mic.
We'll get him a mic, but while he gets a mic, so yeah, tell us about your China experience and what do you think of the rest of Asia? I know you do investment in Japan as well, and you're doing stuff in Japan. So what do you think of the region itself in terms of startups?
Okay, so first on the question of China. So definitely China is a slightly different beast, but it's becoming much more international. So conducting business in English in China is much easier than it was, say, 10, 15 years ago. But the mode of working in the opportunity, particularly if you're in Hong Kong, is not necessarily looking in going into China, but is actually helping Chinese companies go outside of China. So a lot of Chinese companies are investing overseas. They're buying stuff overseas. It's not just real estate. It's actually intellectual property and things like that. And they're also using Hong Kong as a listing point and a fundraising point as well. So a lot of the Chinese technology companies are fundraising or listed in Hong Kong, like for instance like Tencent or 4Game or so on. And they're looking for deals. And they also love living in Hong Kong. That's the other thing. I mean, Hong Kong is kind of I give this example about sort of why is it that Boston, which has all the universities, is not the startup capital of the US? Why is it Silicon Valley? Well, the weather is nicer and it's just a beautiful place to live. And that's Hong Kong for the Chinese, right? People, you have the culture, you have your Chinese food, you have everything. People speak Mandarin, but you're not far away. It's the same time zone. The air is cleaner, ironically for the Chinese. They think it's really clean. And the lifestyle is good. So they all move there. And so that's kind of one of the great points of connecting with China is Hong Kong is sort of that melting pot. And quickly on Japan, Japan's ecosystem is also very interesting because previously it was very, very local and you had to speak Japanese. But now it's essentially a lot of overseas Japanese coming back or, I guess people who are half Japanese and they're doing business there. They speak good English and sort of changing Japan. And so there's this movement as well where young people are sort of sick of the system and trying to make things better. But many of the business start up as a domestic business. The difference is that Japan has 100 million people, so you can make money in Japan. So you can be a domestic business and be initially successful. In Hong Kong, not quite so. It's it's got a lot less people, like 8 million, and so therefore you got to think global right from the start in most cases.
But I think we recommend this to a lot of our investments, and I've been surprised actually because strategically it makes sense to come translate and go to Hong Kong, learn about the cultures, do customer development, because you can get 10 to 15 cultures and test people from all the different geographies around the world, all the socioeconomic classes possible, and you can test your products rapidly. Now, it's not its own market by any stretch of the imagination. You can still sell there, but you wouldn't move your company to target Hong Kong as its own market. We've had a lot of Western teams, surprisingly enough, which again, on paper and in some economic journal and some strategy, this all makes sense. But when you bring it down to the startup level, we've had teams come from Berlin, we've had teams come from Canada, and they were supposed to go compete in the tier 1 Western markets with all the other names. Well, you can do that, and that's fine. Or what they're starting to do is they're using Japan, Korea, Hong Kong, and these are hundreds of millions of people that want the same products, and they don't have to compete head on. So you have the opportunity to go after, America is 325, 350 million people, addressable market for your products, probably 50, 25, whatever it is, maybe 100. Well, you have that in Japan and Korea, no problem. That's it. Super simple. You localize, you put a couple of people on customer support, it's over. You can totally handle those markets. And I think it sounds a lot more scary than it actually is. This is a real opportunity for startups. It's not difficult. They love spending on new technologies. They're early adopters. They grew up with this in a lot faster way than we did in the West. So I think people really think it's scarier than it is. I've seen it happen now with some of our early investments. It's not that difficult, and it's a massive opportunity.
So Simon just came in late, but Simon's responsible for some of the uptake in accelerators based out of Hong Kong. So maybe Simon, you can talk a little bit about the teams that come into your group. They're not Hong Kong teams, they're global teams basing out of Hong Kong, leveraging the infrastructure there. Why don't you talk a little bit about what Nest does and some of the other accelerators that you're working on?
Sure. First of all, I'm sorry I'm late, everyone. I ran here, hence a bit sweaty, but sorry I'm late. So, I've been in Hong Kong 19 years, so clearly I'm a fan. I think Hong Kong has a certain place in the startup ecosystem. So who in the room is thinking of doing a startup? Who's doing a startup? Maybe there's no way of putting it, okay. Who's doing an Internet of Things related or smart city startup? Okay, you have to be probably in China at some point. So Hong Kong is a great soft landing to enter into that part of the world. Shenzhen is 1 hour away where pretty much everything can be made, and you need to reiterate quickly, so you need to be close to the source of manufacturing. So That's one of the reasons that I'm based there. There's also a huge amount of capital. Hong Kong is China, 51 million visitors to Hong Kong in the last 12 months, but it's actually an advanced part of China in my view. It's got a transparent banking system, so you can put money in and out easily. So as an angel myself, that makes it very easy to put money in, and when you make money, get money out. Inside the mainland, that's a little bit more tricky. In addition, the easy flow of a workforce. So Invest HK, who support this initiative, you can get a visa within 5 days if you're inside one of the accelerators inside Hong Kong or one of our accelerators. And we can easily help you get a team. Now, I think what I've noticed investing in Hong Kong full-time for the last 5 years is most of the startups that we're involved in have multinational teams from day one. In a way, Hong Kong is like Silicon Valley. It's only 7+ million people, so it's very similar to Silicon Valley, except it has 51 million visitors. Silicon Valley only has 2.5. So you've got this, as Bay was saying earlier, you've got this massive sandbox to test stuff out in, and it's a very advanced system. So latest mobile phone, latest technology, very fast broadband. So basically, it's a great place to test. And most of the teams in any startup that I'm involved in, they're speaking 3 or 4 languages, and they're thinking global from day one. So maybe China is the manufacturing hub. They're looking at Europe and America as their final destination for the product. Logistics is really easy. IP protection is really strong. So it's got all these ingredients. For us, one of the things we've done recently at Nest in the last 12 months, which I'm excited about, is we brought on board big corporates based in that part of the world that can help. So for example, we have a JV with Infinity, which is the luxury car brand of Nissan, to do smart city Internet of Things related startups. And we're working with Bay and his team, for example, to help those startups get access to manufacturing. But Nissan themselves are in Japan, of course, because that's with Renault connection, that's where they originate from. They've got factories in Japan, they've got factories in China, they've got distribution in the whole world through their car sales network, for example. So you can be in Hong Kong, you can connect to Nissan, you can get access to manufacturing through relationships in Nissan and Bay's company. You can get access to go-to-market, all in one place, Hong Kong. So anyway, clearly I'm a fan, and that's my quick overview.
So have you done, in your thing, like your accelerator is specifically focusing on things like fintech. Hong Kong is very, very a financial hub. What do you think about that as a fintech hub compared to the rest of Asia or global market?
So I think what Hong Kong has an interesting advantage in fintech. So I'm actually involved in 3 areas right now: health tech, fintech, and Internet of Things, smart city technology. And Hong Kong in fintech, one of the reasons I think it has a real advantage is it's one of the few markets where you've got Chinese banks and Western banks literally sitting side by side. In 2008, when there was a financial crisis in the US, they moved all their brain power out to Asia because that was the growth market. So you've got a huge mentor pool, you've got a huge amount of brain power in Hong Kong that understands the financial sector, and that can be applied to the startups that want to get into the fintech space. So there's a lot of people leaving banking, starting their startups, and they're coming out of the banking sector in Hong Kong. The Chinese banks want to use technology to get into America and Europe. They want to build retail. And the Western banks want to get into India and China, and again, want to invest in technology to do that. So again, Hong Kong is a hub. It's a really good hub to connect all these things, and fintech is a definite winner in Hong Kong right now.
So yeah, where do you see Hong Kong, or Hong Kong as a hub, Asia in the next 5 years? Next 3 years, let's say 3 years.
Okay, so generally speaking, I mean, if you're looking at Hong Kong specifically, I don't think that it matters as much where you are in the future, right? So if we're talking about 5 or 10 years down the road, it matters more about where do the smart people want to live, because where they want to live is where you'll get the good ideas. So to me, then the ecosystems are going to be surrounded around those type of locales. Where smart people want to live, good ideas blossom. And Hong Kong has that ingredient, but specifically they have that ingredient because of the Chinese who want to move and live in Hong Kong because there's a nice little intermediate spot. The other thing is, a third of our office is also from overseas. It's easy to move to Hong Kong, right? Whether it's the companies at Brink or with Simon's companies, they're all run by people who are also international by nature. And so Hong Kong is a nice little spot. But of course, there's improvements needed, and there's competition as well. I mean, there's Singapore, in China, English is getting better, right? So 5 to 10 years down the road, there'll be, you can also consider, I know a lot of guys who are starting up in Shanghai straight away. And Tokyo is becoming very interesting because lifestyle in Tokyo is really good. So in contrast, and English is getting better. Many of the sort of foreign startups run by foreigners who don't even speak much Japanese are starting up in Japan because cost is relatively low and talent is there. The other one we haven't talked about is Taipei, right? So Taipei is also very interesting because for engineering talent, it's a good place to do it. But of course, Hong Kong, especially if you have money, it's a great place to live.
Come on, that's such a cop out. I hate
How about
that.
you?
I hate the living thing. Like,
Taipei?
it's so cheap. It's so cheap. Like, in San Francisco, we had so many teams that would just bunk up with their friends and make it work. Of course, if you're in your 30s or 40s and you have family, sure, you're not going to live that lifestyle. But if you're a startup, you can live for dirt cheap in Hong Kong. It's not a problem. So I think it depends. We
And the
haven't all
ramen
had-
is better.
We haven't all had three
The ramen
IPOs,
noodles are
buddy.
rare.
I think it's seriously, it's for whatever you want it to be, right? I mean, I'm there because it's an amazing place to live. I can be anywhere in Asia in under 5 hours. You have access to literally everything. Direct flights to San Francisco, multiple times a day. It's really a great place to be, but it's not expensive if you don't want it to be. It can be as expensive as you could possibly make it if you wanted it to be too.
Yeah, I think Bay's absolutely right. I think everywhere in the world, Silicon Valley is an expensive place, but the reason people can afford it is because they can get the finance they need, they get the resources they need. I think Hong Kong's the same, and although I'm on stage promoting Hong Kong, and I do believe in Hong Kong, my firm's actually in 8 markets in Asia. So I think there's lots of markets have different advantages depending on what you're looking for as a startup. But I can tell you that certainly from a cost perspective, we're running a program at the FinTech Accelerator at the moment, and we pay for the flights for the startups to come to Hong Kong. We get their visa for them. We pay for their accommodation for 3 months, and their workspace is free. So I don't know anywhere on the planet that's cheaper than zero, right? And in fact, in Hong Kong, the McDonald's, officially on the McDonald's index, is the cheapest McDonald's in the world. So really after that, it's just mindset. Is it expensive or not expensive? It really is to do with whether or not it's the right market for you to thrive and succeed.
You've got that one McDonald's, you can make your burger custom.
Yeah, that's
really
yeah,
nice
that's right.
McDonald's. It's like the best McDonald's.
Even McDonald's is using Hong Kong to test out new stuff, so.
But to echo that sentiment, I agree that you can live cheaply everywhere, right? But I think the main thing was, like Silicon Valley, the people who have made money and who can afford to live who can afford the expenses are the ones who are investing. And that cycle begins it, right? And so lifestyle is important, right? You need to have that kind of lifestyle. And Hong Kong has that, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And so that, I think, gives it that key advantage. Yeah.
All right. Let's end it there because we can talk about this all day, and we know each other, so we can talk about this anytime. But we'd like to talk about it in front of you. We'll take questions from the audience. We have like 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 questions. Anybody has questions for these gentlemen here? Yes, raise your hand. We'll throw this box at you. There's a mic in it.
This is the coolest thing ever.
It's very cool. It's called a catch box.
It's a
So you have to
microphone.
catch it in your hands. Right here. Over here, gentlemen.
You didn't get to throw it.
Hello. Oh, great. It works. It's more of a question for you.
Yacht.
Yeah, that's right. You mentioned that you have. I'm in the education sector. You mentioned some education investments. I was wondering, what is the landscape of education market out there in terms of tech?
So in terms of maturity for edtech, it's relatively small, but in terms of potential, it's really huge. Because unlike, say, the US, the know-how in terms of what's needed in education is quite far behind, right? So basically, schooling systems are generally quite rigid still. The psychology and the learning methodologies are still fairly rigid and sort of backwards. So that's the opportunity. I mean, and there's an interesting anecdotal story on this. Hong Kong has the highest paid tutors in the world. I mean, they make millions of US dollars, right? And we can argue all day about why that is and whether it's good or bad, but it just goes to show that this is a market where people are willing to spend lots of money on education. Just what kind of education? And if you have good educational tools and software and services, I think it's a great market, which is why we like it.
There are tutors that are on billboards. They're like famous. Like around Asia, it's like you're a deity almost. Like if you're a good tutor, you help my child get to the right school, you're like a rock star.
All right, question over here.
Yeah. Hi. I heard you saying that China can be thought of as a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 country all in one. I've heard it been said before as well that it's more like the EU as opposed to one country. Do you think of it as blocks like that? Do you guys would you have any suggestion of where your key markets are and how you differentiate between Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, Guangzhou? Like where to start? Where is your tier 1 key market, your tier 2 key market, your tier 3, based on what product you're trying to sell?
I think it's going to be dependent on each team or product. I swear, we have 3 offices in China. We have some of the best distributors in China, and I still don't recommend for teams to start in China. Everything is so specifically different there. I would go through a distributor first. I always tell our teams, give away more margin, let someone else manage this, because you're talking sales staff, customer support, logistics supply chain, boots on the ground to validate pricing. I mean, this is physical, right? So this is different for digital, I'm sure. But I really, you have to understand how uniquely different this space is. And if you're trying to do digital, you're fighting the biggest app stores that are completely controlled by Chinese entities. So you're literally fighting like the throttling of the internet, the problems with censorship. It's not an insignificant challenge. So I think you're smart to focus on one maybe, but I would put people on the ground. I would definitely not try to do this remotely. And I would really seriously incentivize a partner to help you. I would not try to do this by yourself at first. It's going to be very hard to get traction.
Yeah, so the other thing I want to sort of add on the digital side of things, it depends really on the product that you're selling. But because many of the platforms are sort of spread throughout, let's say like WeChat or Weixin or so on, you can actually reach a global audience fairly quickly. So, we have, for instance, a partnership where we sell basically, games and sort of apps through WeChat, and we basically reach all markets fairly quickly that way. So if you get the right partnership, as Bei mentioned, you can accelerate. But there's also, what's the difference between those markets? Really, it depends on where you want to live as well, where you want to build it out. There's specificities in it. But, if you want to be close from a political landscape, Beijing is recommended. Hardware, Shenzhen, Shanghai, media,
Yeah.
and if you want to be experimental, you can go to Sichuan, right? So.
All right, we're going to leave it there. I'm going to give you guys 2 gifts before we leave. At 2:30 at the Rise booth in the Simmons Court, we'll be doing a lion dance. Not us, professional lion dance people. So come on out, check it out if you've never seen it before. And tonight we're going to have a Rise 2016 happy hour at Bankers, 8 p.m., and you're all invited. So let's give a round of applause to these guys. Thank you.